NBA teams have played somewhere between 37 and 42 games already, and the title favorite Golden State Warriors play their 41st on Tuesday night. In other words, we're at the season's midway point, some 2 weeks after Christmas, which is sort of weird, but we are here nonetheless, and there is no more interesting topic at this point than an MVP race that is as wide open as it has been in years. The reigning award winner, James Harden, turned in a performance last week that further stirred the conversation and raised this question to the tip of everyone's tongue: could the Houston Rockets star repeat as MVP? A couple handfuls of challengers will have something to say about that in the second half of the season, but we're here to take stock of the race halfway through the 2018-19 campaign. I've whittled the race down to 8 players, with respect to Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant, all of whom could ascend this ladder in the second half of the season. Here's a quick rundown of why I left them out of this group for now, so we don't have to argue about it later. Durant: I buy into the idea that 2 MVP-caliber players on the same roster removes some of each's value, and in this case I think Stephen Curry is more valuable to who the Warriors are than Durant. Irving and Lillard, both have been the best versions of themselves as playmakers this season, and both have made strides defensively, but neither carries the usage load as heavily as Harden, alters the orbit of defenses quite like Curry, or impacts the game on both ends like everyone else on this list. Davis: the New Orleans Pelicans are 4 games below .500, second to last in the Western Conference, and no matter how ridiculous his numbers are, 28.5 points, 13.3 rebounds, 4.4 assists and 4.4 combined blocks, steals per game, you can't be an MVP in my book if your team isn't in the playoffs. All that being said, this is probably the order I would have the 8 candidates on my list right now: odds, bet DSI, on, off rating, cleaning the glass, and all other statistics. Basketball Reference, MVP odds, 450 on, off rating, 2.7 traditional statistics, 26.5 PPG, 59.0 FG%, 17.6 3P%, 69.6 FT%, 12.6. RPG, 6.1 APG, 2.9 SPG, BPG Advanced Statistics, 29.3 per, 63.8 TS%, 31.4 USG%, .265 WS, 48, 3.7 VORP Signature Performance. 4 games into the season, Antetokounmpo sent a message to the NBA that he had made yet another freakish leap, and his Milwaukee Bucks were an Eastern Conference contender as a result. His 3-2-1-8-1-0 triple-double with 3 blocks and 2 steals stole the spotlight from Ben Simmons, a 1-4-1-3-1-1 triple-double of his own, and Joel Embiid, 30 points and 19 rebounds, and delivered a 123-108 victory against one of the few teams expected to be among the East's elite. The argument, nobody can stop him. Per second spectrum, he attempts 11 shots per game from within 5 feet of the rim, where he shoots 75.5%, and then adds 9 free throws a night. That is ridiculously efficient basketball, and could be even more so, if he raises his free throw percentage closer to his career average of 74%, which doesn't account for his magnetic pull of opposing defenses and the 16.3 points his assists create per game. No one makes the game look easier. He's also anchoring the league's third-ranked defense, holding opponents' field goal percentages 5.1% worse than their averages, good for 6th among all players who contest at least 10 shots per game. Throw it all together, and the Bucks own the NBA's best second record at the midway point. MVP odds, 250 on, off rating, 2 traditional statistics, 33.7 PPG, 43.7 FG%, 38.6 3P%, 85.3 FT%, 5.9 RPG, 8.5 APG, 2.6 SPG, BPG Advanced Statistics, 28.8 per, 61.8 TS%, 39.0 USG%, .224 WS, 48, 4.1 VORP Signature Performance. Harden Harden just submitted it, posting of the 15th of October 44 triple-double against the rival Golden State Warriors that was punctuated by a game-winning 30-footer over Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. It marked his fifth straight 40-point performance, once again placing him in the statistical company of only Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson in the last half-century. The win reaffirmed his Houston Rockets as the West's best threat to the two-time defending champions. You can argue for him as the best offensive player of all time, Rockets GM Daryl Morey told ESPN after James Harden's latest jaw-dropping performance. To be able to say that with a straight face, is pretty amazing. Tim McMahon, at @ESPN_McMahon, January 4, 2019. The argument, since running mate Chris Paul suffered a hamstring injury in a loss that dropped Houston to 16-15, Harden is averaging 41.6 points, 9.1 assists and 6.6 rebounds. He led the Rockets on a 6-game win streak that lifted them from a three-way tie for the West's final playoff spot to 5th place, 2 wins back from the Oklahoma City Thunder in 3rd. Everything runs through Harden, and whether you like his foul hunting style or not, he is running it better and more often than anyone. Statistically speaking, he is averaging 3 more points than he did during last year's MVP campaign and doing so more efficiently, all while averaging more rebounds and steals and roughly the same number of assists. The only knock against him is his role in Houston's struggles to start the season, particularly on the defensive end, where he was the point man for the NBA's third-worst defense through November. Houston's torrid play ever since has vaulted him back in the conversation. Kawhi Leonard is back to being a top 3 MVP candidate after missing almost an entire season due to injury. Getty Images 3. Kawhi Leonard MVP odds, 1000 on/off rating, 5.0 traditional statistics, 27.2 ppg, 49.9 fg%, 36.23 p%, 84.8 ft%, 7.9 rpg, 3.0 apg, 2.3 spg, bpg advanced statistics, 26.6 per, 60.8 ts%, 30.3 usg%, 0.227 WS 48, 1.9 VORP signature performance. The true, this is the day Kawhi Leonard became a Raptor effort hasn't come yet, but his 37 points over 44 minutes in a 131-128 overtime victory against the Warriors stands out. The win came in front of an electric Toronto atmosphere and snapped an 8-game losing streak to Golden State. Not only did it reignite the long-held belief that this might actually be the year the Raptors break through to the finals, but it reinforced the idea that they can compete if they get there. The argument, Leonard is scoring a level above anything we've seen from him before, and we've seen 2 top 3 MVP finishes over the past 3 seasons. He is admittedly not 100% of the player who won back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards and was arguably the game's best two-way player prior to sitting out all but 9 games last season with a quadriceps injury. And that is a scary thought for the East. The Raptors already have more wins than anyone at this point of the season. 4. Paul George MVP odds, 2,500 on/off rating, 18.4 traditional statistics, 26.8 ppg, 45.0 fg%, 38.43 p%, 83.3 ft%, 8.0 rpg, 4.0 apg, 2.8 spg, bpg advanced statistics, 24.0 per, 58.1 ts%, 29.6 usg%, 0.218 WS 48, 2.8 VORP signature performance, George's 43 points and 14 rebounds against the Utah Jazz on deck. 22, when Russell Westbrook scored just 8 points on 17 shots, was the perfect example of how much weight the 5-time All-Star is carrying in Oklahoma City this year. He made half of his 10 three-pointers, added 6 assists and 5 steals, and split-time frustrating Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles and Ricky Rubio, who were a combined 4 for 14 against him. It was as complete a performance as we've seen from anyone this season, and it came in Utah, where OKC's last season ended in the first round of the playoffs. "I've owed this to this team," said George, sending a message to any team awaiting him in the playoffs this season. "I didn't like the way I finished in this arena last time I was here. That was on my mind." The argument: there are a handful of players in the league who could enter this conversation while playing on the same team as Westbrook, who captured MVP honors 2 years ago as the most ball-dominant of stars and would be a candidate this year if he could find the bottom of the basket. 4 years after breaking his leg, George is one of those guys again, playing the way we all hoped he would after leading the Indiana Pacers to back-to-back conference finals appearances opposite LeBron. Here are Durant's averages during his 2013-14 MVP campaign alongside Westbrook: 32 points, 63.5 true shooting percentage, 7.4 rebounds, 5.5 assists and 2 combined steals, blocks per game. The scoring is obviously superior, but George is playing at a first-team all-defensive and maybe even Defensive Player of the Year level, which closes the gap significantly. It is incredible that the Thunder were able to fill 95% of Durant's shoes so soon after his departure should have decimated the franchise. The groin injury that LeBron James suffered on Christmas has both hindered and reinforced his MVP candidacy. Getty Images 5. LeBron James MVP odds: 500 on/off rating, 5.4 traditional statistics, 27.3 PPG, 51.8 FG%, 35.63 68.2 FT%, 8.3 RPG, 7.1 APG, 2.0 SPG, BPG Advanced Statistics, 26.4 per, 60.1 TS%, 31.4 USG%, 0.203 WS, 48, 2.9 VORP signature performance. LeBron dropped 51 points in a win against his old flame, the Miami Heat, joining Kobe Bryant as the only other player to reach the half-century mark 16 seasons into his career. Keep in mind, also, that Bryant required 50 shots to get his 60 points in the final game of his career. LeBron needed 31 to get his 51 on this night, and he has looked as good as ever. The performance, which included 8 rebounds, 6 of 8 shooting from three-point range and 3 assists, came during a stretch of 7 wins in 8 games that quelled any fears over his new team's 4-6 start. The argument for LeBron will always be in the MVP conversation, so long as he's healthy, and there's the rub. The 34-year-old has missed 6 games after suffering a groin injury on Christmas Day, and he isn't scheduled to be re-evaluated again until next week. The Lakers are 1-5 in his absence, requiring a fourth-quarter comeback to get their one win at home against the Sacramento Kings, and they have looked very much like the 35-win team they were last season before his heralded arrival. All of this reinforces LeBron's candidacy. His health in the second half of the season, as well as his willingness to play defense on a team that ranks 28th in that regard, will dictate how seriously voters consider him for his 5th such award. The Lakers will need him to play at an MVP level just to survive. 6. Stephen Curry MVP odds: 1200 on/off rating, 10.7 traditional statistics, 29.4 PPG, 49.1 FG%, 45.03 P%, 91.3 FT%, 5.1 RPG, 5.2 APG, 1.6 SPG, BPG Advanced Statistics, 25.9 per, 66.1 TS%, 31.3 USG%, 0.206 WS, 48, 2.1 VORP signature performance. Almost every Stephen Curry game seems like a signature Stephen Curry game, so it's tough to decide between his electrifying 51-point effort in only 3 quarters on 11 of 16 shooting from distance against the Washington Wizards or his scintillating 42-point night capped by a game winner against the LA Clippers 2 days before Christmas. Nobody is more fun to watch cook. The argument: through the first few weeks of the season, before his own groin injury, Curry looked like the favorite to win his third of these awards, averaging 29.5 points on near 5-0, 5-0, 9-0 splits and double-digit three-point attempts every night. He has cooled off ever so slightly since returning to the lineup, averaging 28.5 points on merely way above average 41.5% shooting from distance. His hot start topped his first MVP season and looked a lot like his unanimous campaign. The fact that the Warriors, who remain the favorites to win a third straight NBA title, went just 5-6 in his 11-game absence is another feather in his cap. If he ever approaches the 5-0, 5-0, 9-0 mark with this high of a usage rate for the entire second half of the season, it may be enough to overcome his missed games in the eyes of voters who will be choosing from a host of players who have carried the load all season. Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic have been the best centers in the NBA for very different reasons. Getty Images 7. Joel Embiid MVP odds, 1500 on/off rating, 14.5 traditional statistics, 26.9 ppg, 48.4 fg%, 29.73 p%, 80.5 ft%, 13.5 rpg, 3.5 apg, 2.5 spg, bpg advanced statistics, 25.3 per, 59.2 ts%, 32.6 usg%, 0.191 ws, 48, 1.8 VORP signature performance. Embiid has made a meal out of lesser big men than he, namely Andre Drummond, complete with some healthy trash talk before and afterwards. But a November 21 showdown against Anthony Davis was an entirely different animal, and Embiid responded with 31 points and 19 rebounds, while holding Davis to 12 points on 13 shots, in a 121-120 win that spoke just as loudly. If we win 50 to 55 games and I have these numbers, Embiid, who was showered with MVP chants from the Philadelphia crowd, said then of his odds, I think I have a pretty good chance. The argument: the Sixers are on pace for 53 wins. Their incredible run through the end of last regular season and the first round of the playoffs ended with a 5-game stunner from the Boston Celtics in the conference semifinals, and there was some question as to how they would respond. Embiid came off the mat with a vengeance, averaging a monster double-double, protecting the rim more regularly than any other starting center and establishing himself as the game's best player at the true position. The biggest thing holding Embiid back is his dramatic roster. As reigning Rookie of the Year Ben Simmons has failed to develop a jumper, limiting his ability to play off the ball, both Embiid and newcomer Jimmy Butler have complained about their roles in the offense, looking for more post-ups and pick-and-rolls, respectively. It has not helped Embiid that the Sixers discarded a handful of floor spacers, which further limits the space in which he has to work on the block and also puts pressure on him to shoot from distance. It's remarkable he's been this productive, given the circumstances. 8. Nikola Jokic MVP odds, 5000 on/off rating, 4.9 traditional statistics, 18.8 ppg, 50.0 fg%, 31.83 p%, 83.6 ft%, 10.0 rpg, 7.5 apg, 2.2 spg, bpg advanced statistics, 25.9 per, 58.9 ts%, 26.3 usg%, 0.226 ws, 48, 3.4 VORP signature performance. The Denver Nuggets have been a popular breakout team pick for the past few seasons, but after 2 whiffs at the playoffs, it became clear they would only make a leap once Jokic did. It took 2 games for Jokic to prove he and the Nuggets are on that next level. He had 35 points, 11 rebounds and 11 assists against the hapless Phoenix Suns, complete with an 11-for-11 shooting performance that made him the first player since Wilt Chamberlain to post a triple-double on perfect shooting from the field, and even Chamberlain wasn't taking and making 3 three-pointers to get there. The argument: the Nuggets have been at or near the top of the West standings all season, and their 3 losses better than anybody else in the conference as we enter the midway point, which is pretty remarkable when all but one team is within 3 games of a playoff spot. That Jokic has been so clearly their best player, keeping the trains running on time despite Denver losing key contributors Paul Millsap, Gary Harris and Will Barton for significant chunks, alone makes him an MVP candidate. There's also the fact that he may well be the greatest passing big man in NBA history. His 7.5 assists per game currently slots him ninth behind 8-point guards. The only non-guards to ever average that many assists for a full season are LeBron James, Larry Bird and Chamberlain. Again, Chamberlain is both the only other 7-footer in that group and the only one to do so while also averaging a double-double. And I wasn't around then, but I'm not sure Chamberlain was throwing passes like this. We should all hope the MVP race in the second half of the NBA season is as fun to watch as that was. Ben Rohrbach is a staff writer for Yahoo Sports. Have a tip? Email him at rohrbach_ben@yahoo.com or follow him on Twitter. Follow at Rohrbach. From Yahoo Sports, Wetzel, fans jeer, teammates console Bears kicker after crushing loss. The legend of Eagles Foles grows bigger. Flacco's time in Baltimore appears to be over. Thamel, how Clemson can derail Alabama's title hopes.